Okay, so generally speaking, I don't like to make reaction content unless I can come from a place of knowledge. And in this particular situation, this stuff was bothered me so much, and I do feel like I can kind of come from a place of knowing what I'm talking about. I've made, quite a few music videos before. I've made short films before. Never, nothing major, nothing on a level of like a major recording artist. But I've done it before. I've worked on productions before. Again, small productions, but I have a basis of where to talk about this stuff from. So when I saw this stuff, it was just super upsetting to me. The Darkness is a band that's been around for a while now. They've released a bunch of really good albums. I've really enjoyed their music. They're kind of in like that like 80s hair metal sort of tone, and I think they're great. And Justin Hawkins, who's their lead singer and guitar player, has a YouTube channel where he kind of dives into the music business. And again, I'm a big fan of his YouTube channel. I think it's a really good like look into the music business. I think he answers a lot of questions that people have about the music business from a place of like being very humble and almost kind of earnest about it, which is a hard thing to do when you're a glorified rock star, right? Talking to an audience, right? It's not an easy task, and I think he does it really good. Which is why this was so upsetting to me. I legit felt like it was an April Fool's joke. The Darkness released a music video a few weeks ago for a track off their new album, and it was 100% done in AI, and poorly done, if I do say so myself. I'm not going to show any clips. I'll show a little bit of the video itself, but I don't want to get copyright stricken, which, because I'm talking smack about it to a certain degree. I'm sure would happen. But if you haven't seen that video, pause this video, go watch that video in the full, then come back. So that video came out, and people were not happy about it. At least some people, kind of making comments about AI is garbage, just generally speaking, right? That AI is garbage, which I am a big fan of people doing that. I don't think that happens enough, in whether you're an artist or content creator, that sort of thing. So having just the general audience or the general community at large fighting back against AI music videos is fantastic for artists. It's a great thing. So the comments were not kind about that, and Justin then doubled down and made a reaction video reacting to the comments, and it bothered me so much, and I felt like it was just kind of messed up on a ton of different levels. So I'm going to react to the reaction video and kind of provide counterpoints to the things he's saying, and kind of hopefully, put somebody or something on a path of understanding why I don't agree with anything he says in this video, which is not a common thing, right? Like I said, I love his content. I think a lot of the things he says is awesome. So I don't know what was going on here. I mean, some of it does feel pretty defensive, which, again, I mean, nobody likes to hear that people don't like their stuff. But when it's an AI video, I mean, it's pretty low effort content. Believe me, as somebody who makes reaction videos, right? And this is low effort content for me. I'm hitting record and I'm putting it up. It's not that difficult. So we're going to react to that video now and kind of talk about what's going on, what I think can, be different, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So before we get into this stuff, I mean, the record cover is such an awesome cover. I mean, that outfit is awesome. The cell phones, like everything about it is awesome.
Opening track, and I wanted to look at some of your reactions. On YouTube, my producer noted that slop, which according to the Oxford English Dictionary is a type of...
I mean, yeah, it's used colloquially. I always have a hard time with that word. It's used colloquially to describe AI. That's a valid
Wastewater
concern.
from a kitchen, bathroom, or chamber pot that has to be emptied by hand was becoming a key theme. Sorky said, getting really tired of these AI slop videos.
Thank you,
I
Sorky.
quite love the backlash against AI stuff. That's really cool, I think. There's been a really there's been a mass debate. No, a mass. Well, there's been a movement against it from a lot of sort of creative folk who see it as a threat. But I don't know. I think for me, it was literally the reason why we did that AI type video was because none of us could be asked. We just couldn't be bothered.
I'm assuming that's a joke, right? I'm assuming it's a joke. If it's not, that sucks. But assuming it's a joke in like poor taste. It doesn't really land because what was the reason that you guys made an AI video, right?
And went and listened to it instead on YouTube Music. Okay, great. Do you think the YouTube Music algorithm uses AI in any sense? Is there stuff on YouTube Music playlists that's generated using AI?
I mean, that's not the same thing, right? YouTube is a business, right? They're there to make money. Generating playlists off of AI, that's a horrible thing. I don't think it's that hard to make playlists. I think you should pay somebody to curate playlists if you're going to do that, right? But that's, again, a different conversation. I don't think making the argument of like, hey, Google uses AI, so whatever, and then also another important note is like, the person mentions going to Google Music and specifically searching for a band. I don't know about other people. I know a lot of people do use playlists or what they would call a radio station to discover other bands. I don't, right? I get kind of old school about things. A lot of times I'll go to a record store, or whatever, and flip through music. I'll look at bands that are similar to other bands that I like, that sort of thing. I'm not saying that AI doesn't make its way into, my recommendations from time to time. It's just not everybody uses those playlists, right? And, that's just a silly argument to make about, oh, hey, Google uses AI, so why can't we? Yeah, okay, then everybody uses AI. We'll just use AI-generated music. We don't need bands anymore. Bye-bye. Just generate music via AI. It's silly.
That then sort of prevents them from having to pay out. I don't know. I'm asking the question. Great song, deeply disappointing video, visually and ethically. Oh my god. Swolmark said, would be fucking amazing if it was real. Didn't think the darkness would phone it in with an AI video for the song that has the most potential to be an insanely funny video. Really disappointed because I got excited seeing official video for this song. But I mean, I don't think it's fair to say phone it in. This was actually directed by Rufus Tiger Taylor. When I say directed, he consulted with the AI company at great length and with great regularity to try and get it to the point where it was as ridiculous as it is. I think when you watch this video, if you blink, even momentarily, sort of take your eye off the ball, you miss stuff because these crowd.
Being ridiculous isn't an excuse to use AI. There are tons of ridiculous music videos, right, that don't use AI, right? If you're claiming that you paid somebody, claims they paid a director. I'm not using that like in a facetious manner. I'm just that he's calling him the director, so I'm going to assume that he was some kind of a creative person or a director that was in charge of the video. I don't know how much you paid him, but I would assume he has at least some creative control over the way the music video is made. The ones I've done before, generally speaking, the way it's worked, it's been a couple of different ways, is the band will come to me with a song and we'll kind of go back and forth and they'll tell me, hey, this is kind of the vision we had for the song. And I will tell them like, hey, this is how that can be done in a music video format, right? Whether it's, logistical problems of like, hey, man, we can't shoot off fireballs behind you because that's pyro and we don't have the budget, we don't have permits, blah 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 blah, that sort of thing. The other way, and this is more of a kind of like a, if you're more of a highly sought after artist, somebody like Spike Jonze, is a band will ask me to make a music video for them, and they'll give me the song that they're going to make or they want to make the video of. I'll listen to the song and say, hey, this is what I think. As a matter of fact, right now, I'm working on a project with a band / solo artist, whatever, where just coincidentally, I know the story behind the lyrics, and it's kind of a two or the lyrics are somewhat dubious, but I know the true meaning behind the lyrics, and so when listening to the song, it's a band I'm a fan of, and when I was listening to the song, I started visually coming up with a what I would like to see as a video. It wasn't solicited by them. I went to them and said, hey, man, I was listening to your song, and I just have these ideas. Would you like to make this a music video? Or, is it possible that I could pitch you? And they said, yeah, sure. And so I took a couple more days and sort of fleshed out what I had in mind, and I went to them and said, hey, this is how I would do it. This is kind of a rough idea of an estimate of, what it would cost. Obviously, from my position, I take a pretty small, fee. I just cover things like expenses and whatever. Obviously, things like flying around or whatever, we don't do any of that stuff. And they gave me the go-ahead. And so as of right now, I'm working on a couple other things to flesh out for the video. And then in a certain amount of time, we'll go and shoot it and put it together and send it off to them. So I don't know how it works specifically with this. If that director, that's what he did, is he's like, hey, I have a vision for this video, and then went to the AI company. That's fine. That's a fine way to do a video. Like he mentioned, they couldn't be bothered to either act in the video or star in the video or come up with a video. Okay, fine. You could send somebody off and pay them to do it. I would hope you would pay them. It doesn't have to be a tremendous amount of money or anything. There are plenty of very hungry directors, and I don't think you should pay somebody an exposure or any of that stuff, but you could pay somebody a livable wage and have them make a music video for you and still not spend a ton of money doing it.
And so many elements into this, the narrative that he's telling, and obviously,
a cowboy and a motorcycle and a bar.
AI is a convenient tool to use to realize those ridiculous things. I think to make this as a real life video, it would cost considerably more than our budget would allow.
That's why you hire somebody who has experience with filmmaking or music videos or whatever, and you give them what your vision is for the video, and they, sometimes they might have to manage your expectations and say, hey, look, we can't do that. Like I said, I had a band who wanted to do pyro in their video, and I was like, yo, man, like that's not how that works. But I was like, listen, give me a couple of days and let me come up with some alternatives, right? And we found an alternative that worked for the video. I think we ended up using like film burn effects to kind of give the effect that the set was burning, and it wasn't perfect. It wasn't the pyro that they wanted, but it worked. The band was happy with it. We were happy with it. I'm not the kind of person that will settle on stuff. If something's bad, I tend not to enjoy it. But, that happens where your budget doesn't allow for stuff like that. Well, figure out another way to do it.
And would ultimately be a little bit shit, I think. And actually, I really love the way, even in different, within the course of me singing a line, my face changes noticeably.
I mean, they use the AI to create live performances of the band. You can't get live performances of your band. Just, I would hope, I'm pretty sure, as far as I know, they have live performances. So, you could hire a videographer, and again, most videographers, not all of them, right? You should do your homework on them a little bit, but most videographers are incredibly professional, and if you ask them for something specific, right, you can get it from them, right? You say, hey, man, this is what we need. We need some basic, shots of the show tonight, right? That's something I've done plenty of times, right? Where a band is contacting me, be like, hey, man, we need shots for our show tonight. This, and this. Can you handle that? I'll say, yeah, sure. There are a lot of things that happen with a touring band and stuff, and sometimes things change, right? You're in a different city every night. But it's not that hard to get consistent show footage, right? It's not that hard, right? And so to use AI to do that doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Sometimes it cuts back to me. I'm wearing a different outfit. I'm playing about 4 different guitars, including an 8-string at 2 minutes and 7 seconds. So it's kind of ridiculous, and it's rough around the edges. It's a bit shit. It's definitely AI, but I kind of love it. I think it's actually a good bit of commentary on AI and the state that it's in at the moment.
How's it a commentary on AI? If it's supposed to be bad AI, okay, but that point doesn't come across in the video. That doesn't happen. It just looks like a bad AI video. And if that was the intentions, if the intentions were to make a music video that's like, hey, man, AI sucks. This is why, or look at how ridiculous this is. It fails. It fails at doing that, which means the music video fails. Which means, call it a bad music video, but it's a bad music video then. I spent some time trying to think about how I would convey AI as bad AI, and off the rip, I can think of, there's a handful of really good examples of that. Please Don't Destroy did an SNL sketch, I think it was last year, where they made that very comment on AI, and it's hilarious, and it's a good example of, the premise is, oh, hey, we're under crunch, so we're just going to use AI, and the AI fails, and it's funny because it's a comedy show, and that works. This doesn't.
People liked it, wow 7582 said, this is AI done right. They're not trying to pass it off as great art or as something that it's not. That's true. Just reveling in the absurdity of it and rocking the fuck out of it, doing things that couldn't be done any other way. That's true. I mean,
a guy walking around with a knife couldn't be done any other way. I understand what they're trying to suggest, right? And there are things that couldn't be done any other way. I understand that, but again, to me, that's why you hire somebody who's, a director or a filmmaker or whatever, who can handle those challenges and deal with that stuff, right? And get your point across in a creative way and do it under budget, right? That's the whole point. That's what makes a good director. That's what makes a good filmmaker, right? If you ever hear, oh, we can't do that because it's not in the budget or whatever, right? Within limits, again, that person is not a good director. That person is not a good filmmaker. What you want in your filmmaker is like, hey, man, let's figure out how the fun way to do this, right? You want somebody who's passionate about filmmaking, right? There is no shortage of those kinds of people out there, right? Fiverr is a great resource. I'm not sponsored by Fiverr. I don't, whatever. I've done work. I've gotten work through Fiverr before. And it worked out for everybody, right? It's not perfect, but again, it is easier than ever to find creative people that are passionate, that are willing to work with you, right, for, a reasonable amount of money. And that is a crap excuse, right? To say, oh, we couldn't do it any other way. I mean, no, sorry, right? Right? If you're getting paid any amount of money, right? More so if you're able to live comfortably off your art, whether that's the music or the, filmmaking, whatever, that's a horrible excuse. I don't accept it, right? As an incredibly amateur filmmaker, I do not accept that. Sorry.
I do think that there are some sort of really ambitious set pieces within this vignette that you would really struggle to realize without the use of some sort of CGI rendering or AI.
CGI rendering is not AI. Those are not the same things, right? CGI, you would pay an artist, right, and a director to come up with those, right? That is not the same thing as AI, okay? If you use CGI, we wouldn't be having this conversation, but you used AI rendering. So, they're just not the same. I mean, that's essentially like saying, right, that's the difference between like paying an artist to write a song for whatever and then just, oh no, we'll just use a song that's already written, whether it's copywritten or whatever, right? Could you do that? Yeah. And are there places for that? Yes, right? Like if you're trying to build a tone or see if something works or whatever, yeah, right? There are places for that. But this is not that. And using AI to develop these. As a matter of fact, we saw Tiger in this video. Is it Lil Pump? I think it's a CGI, or I think it's a real tiger. I can't remember, but it's a CGI tiger. That video came out I think like 10 years ago now. So,
AI or whatever. Anyway, that argument didn't wash with A-Boy.
And then SNL parodied that video, and SNL has a notorious time crunch when it comes to that sort of stuff, right? And they have phenomenal 3D and CGI artists that work there. I feel like, we always talk about crunch culture and that sort of thing, but I hope as for SNL, I would assume, it kind of comes with the territory, but I follow a lot of those artists on Instagram, and they are amazing, and they can do stuff in fractions of the time with a fraction of the budget, right? They're paid a salary. They don't, so it's just, they're churning that stuff out, and they did a better job than this.
The slop. I went straight for the turd. Really disappointed to see you post yet another AI video, even if it's being done as a joke like some people claim in the comments. It's still gross to use AI. If you eat a turd ironically, you're still eating a turd. That's a good point, actually. I agree with that.
Whatever, and he's kind of brushing that off, but I think the more important thing is if it is being done as a joke, it's a bad joke. It does not come across that way, right? I like I said, I spent a little bit of time on thinking about how I would do it, and I've come up with some decent examples. And again, number one, I'm not paid the big bucks. Number two, I spent maybe an hour coming up with stuff. Who knows if I would have had a couple of days or a week, whatever.
But also don't care, really. On Instagram, the debate continued.
If you don't care, don't get me wrong, I can understand being defensive, but if you don't care about what your fans think, what are you doing? What?
With Love Dion commenting simply, AI slop. To which Justin Hawkins, that's me.
So now which a lot of people will say, like, the term is crashing out. Now he's full-blown crashing out by responding to the comments as himself, right? You gotta remember, this is a darkness video, so the band posts the video. So now he's on his own account going through and responding to the people who are criticizing them for using AI slop.
I did weigh in on some of these. I replied to that, I know, right? I love it. Uh, and then somebody said, I do not love, a loon guy said, I do not love seriously using generative AI in a genuine this is art way, but there is still some issue with how it often takes from others' work. Is this AI trained privately? That's a really good question. So I answered that. I said, yes, that was the real challenge here. We had to create all of the elements in real life so we could privately train the AI to create the things that we'd already made exist. It was the most expensive video we've ever made, and it took 15 years in total.
Okay, so you're now being flippant about a genuine question, right? And I don't know that maybe Justin doesn't understand how AI works or whatever, but what that person was asking was if the AI was trained privately. And the way AI works is by scraping together existing, whether it's images, videos, whatever, existing content, and uses that to learn, right? So in this particular case, it would take, let's say I want a video of a rock band playing a rock show. It would then go look at videos of rock bands playing rock shows, right? So by definition, it's essentially derivative, right? Because it can only come from stuff that's already existed. And so that, it's a slippery slope of calling it stealing people's work, but it is, right? And then Justin's coming in and saying like, oh no, we created all of this and trained it privately. Well, right? It's not an uncommon thought to believe that AI is stealing other people's work. It could be using private photos. Like, there are so many things wrong with that, and to be so flippant about it is a horrible stance to have.
Bam on the Cage says AI is going to be the death of music, film and video as we know it. Too bad. Just book a crew and film a real video. To which I replied, okay, can I borrow 50 grand?
So first of all, 50 grand for a music video is not, every band, like I said, every band is different, right? I've shot music videos on a 10th of that budget. It's different for everybody. Some bands, scrape pennies together to make a music video. So first of all, right, you're a band that's signed to a record label. I don't know what your advertising budget was, right? Generally speaking, music videos, they come out of the advertising budget. So, I don't know what the amount of money they dedicated to advertising for your new album was, but it's not nothing, right? It's not a $0 amount, right? Oftentimes it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sometimes, a couple of $1 million, right? It's different, right? The music business is obviously in a position where, they're not hurting for money or whatever. But, the music business has changed over the past 10, 20 years, right? And so things are different, right? Right off the jump, right? Let's say we're going to use the basis of $50,000 for a music video. I don't think, it doesn't have to cost that, right? It could cost $20,000, could cost $15,000, right? No. Are you going to get absolutely every single thing that you might want? Maybe not. Are there ways to do it? I absolutely, I think so. 1,000%, right? You get a director that's creative and fun working with, right? And has the same kind of energy as your band, right? Sky's the limit, right? People are out there making amazing music videos for $0, right? And yeah, I don't think that's the route a signed band like that should go. But, there's somewhere in between $0 and $50,000 that you could have a very good video. More importantly, what did they pay the AI company to do this? Right? They paid them something. It's also, I generally speaking don't like commenting on this sort of stuff, but I'm assuming, I'm not 100% sure, but oh, come on, man, really? This is
Tiger Tape at great length, and
Dude, oh my God. Okay.
prevents them from having to pay out. I don't know. I'm asking the question. Great song, you know. Rock and roll party boy. There's no point in then in. This was actually directed. It's in at the moment. Set pieces within this vignette.
He's wearing what I'm assuming is a Rolex Daytona watch, white-faced Daytona. I'm assuming I suppose I could be wrong, but Rolex Daytonas are not cheap. I'm not saying it's wrong for them to, for him to own a Rolex Daytona. I think successful artists should be able to spend their money. But when you got a 30,000, and that's at the low point for Daytonas, right? Rolex Daytona. Yeah, it's about 30K, right? That's pre-owned, right? They go up higher. The watch industry is dumb. But when you got a 30 grand watch on your wrist and you're complaining that you can't make a music video, I don't feel bad for you, right? I don't think you should sell the watch to make a music, well, whatever. But something tells me if you wanted to make a music video, you probably could.
Appreciate this debate. I think it's interesting because, like, last time when we did the video for "I Hate Myself," a lot of people were saying, it created a different kind of furor. There was a lot of divisive kind of reaction to it, or divided reaction to it.
Okay, so maybe I'm mistaken. I don't know if this one was AI. This video, I think, is a lot better. I think the even if it is AI, it works to get the point across much, much better. I don't think it's necessary, but I do think it is a better example of how AI could be used. Do you use CGI or something else that wasn't AI related to make that happen? Yeah, absolutely, right? But there are still aspects of this that work, right? I don't think the hate for that video is as necessary or as warranted as it is for this previous video.
There was definitely a lot of opinions flying around.
It doesn't look like AI to me, though, but I don't know.
Really fun, but,
it looks like a real
wig,
wig, but
which is just a bit of fun to be so controversial, really. So as far as I'm concerned, that's job done. Well played, Rufus.
Again, I think it's because it misses the point, right? It just looks like an AI slop video. Sorry, but that's what we've decided to call bad AI, right? And that's why it is controversial, is because it doesn't achieve anything. It doesn't achieve the point that you think it achieves, and I think you can do better, right? And again, if you're a band in the Chicago area and you want to do better and you want to prove them wrong, hit me up at the email below. We'll work together and come up with something cool and show them how it's really done. Thanks.